Hey guys, Andy and Spoken Label back in the house Sunday afternoon. Yeah. Now, we're over to a part of the world I've not been to before, actually, but I've got Louise, my sister, has got two of her best mates, not one, two actually. I think they're both there now. Two of her best friends when she was in school both live up this way. So we're off to North Lincolnshire, which I've been told is a lovely area. And the poet I'm going to be chatting to in a minute may disagree with me there, but I've heard nothing but good said about it. So we'll leave it at that. Now, kudos to Richard Harris today as well, because this young lady we've got with us is down to Richard Harris's recommendation, and we love Richard. So we have the fantastic Amy B. Garratt with us. Now, Amy, the people that don't know you, first of all, give us this. Oh, should we give us quite the lowdown then? But tell us a bit about yourself as a person and where all your creativity came from.
Oh, it's like speed dating.
Yeah.
So I'm in my 30s. I'm originally from South Yorkshire. I'm from Doncaster. And I moved to Brigg in North Lincolnshire in the middle of 2018. So my partner's from North Links. So I moved over here, and it was really during 2020 that I started kind of like not a strict everyday diary, but just kind of like little writings about like how I was feeling lockdown, kind of the mental health side of things. I wasn't coping very well with the isolation, and because I'd moved like from my hometown to Brigg, I didn't know a lot of people, and then with lockdown, it was just like me, my partner, and at that point, my little girl was one. Um, and yeah, it was just like, how do we get through every day, and like how do you keep going and stuff like that. So I started writing this diary, and then it became poetry, and I submitted some of that writing to Partnership Publishing. They were doing kind of a competition of like people's experiences of lockdown, and they were saying about, oh, we're going to post it on our website and things. And I thought, well, what else am I doing? um I'll send something to them, and they contacted me and they were like, yeah, we really like your writing. We think, keep sending us stuff. Like we think there's some good quality things here, which I was a bit taken aback because I'd always been a bit scared to share my work with anyone. You always feel a bit self-critical and a bit, oh, I don't want to. So yeah, by the end of it, I think I'd sent them about 70 poems, and the lady that I was chatting to said, I think you've got a collection here. So I
Wow.
I went from there, and I released a book in it was released in like digital in May of 2021, but then the actual paperback was June of 2021.
Mm.
And yeah, and I started going to spoken word events in North Lincolnshire. I was going to speak out Scunny. I'd been to Come Let's Hear You Speak, that's in Cleethorpes, and Well Spoken is in Doncaster, because eventually we were allowed out of the house again, and I could go to these in-person things. And yeah, that's how I met Richard. Was
The
doing
legendary Richard Harris, yeah.
yeah, doing poetry nights. And yeah, last year me and one of the other poets, Amanda Crundle, we set up Rabbiting On, which is the spoken word night at the Rabbit Hole Bookshop in Brigg. So yeah, it's been a busy 4 years.
It tends to when you get into this sort of thing on the spoken word, like I've been doing more years than I'm going to admit, right? But yeah, you do. Sometimes it ends up taking over your life, doesn't it, without you even realizing. Sometimes I think.
Yeah, I think it sort of starts off as you go to a night once a month. Like I see a lot of them seem to fall on Tuesdays or Thursdays for me. So you're like, oh, I'll nip to Scunny. It's that's that Thursday, and then you add another one and another one and another one, and then you find your every week you're off to do poems somewhere in the borough. So yeah, it's been really good though. Like, it's been lovely to meet people. Like, I never knew that there was particularly it sounds a bit naive, but I never really knew there was particularly a poetry scene out there. I just kind of thought, like, when I was writing bits, you know, when I was studying my A levels and I was doing English literature, and you know, you'd write poetry, and I never ever sort of thought to myself about performing it anywhere. I didn't really know that that was a thing. And like nowadays, I suppose because now I've ventured into that world, like, I found out about so many different people, so many different nights. You know, in indie poets, indie authors, famous poets. It's been really nice to actually get to know people and like find a creative community in that sense. Like when you sort of feel like, oh, you know, I haven't really got anyone that I've got this in common with, and then you go to one of these nights and it's just a room full of people that are like cheering you on. It's such a nice feeling.
Yeah, agreed. I think you end up, and this has happened to me, it's definitely the same to you as well, is you end up making different sort of friends, I think sometimes you do. That's what happened to me when I got into this game many, many years ago now. Now, I think obviously need to backtrack a bit first of all and talk about rabbiting on and your night of, say, your spoken word group, we'll call it, over at the Rabbit Hole Bookshop in Brigg then. Now,
Yeah.
what made you and your friends, and I forgot, I didn't catch the name, I do apologise for that, I didn't write that one down.
Oh, well, Amanda Crundle.
Yeah. Tell us about what made you want to do this night then, between the pair of you.
Madness.
I co-run one in Manchester. There's three of us that run that, and that gets called madness as well sometimes as well.
Well, I think it was partly like, so when I decided I was going to do the book and everything, and I'd started getting to know the bookshop people. Like, I'd gone to you know, they run author events and they do, you know, all sorts of book related things. And I'm a bit of a book dragon. I've got a lot of books in my house, and you know, I started going along to different author nights, and they'd be like, "Oh, hi, back again," and you know, you get chatting to people. And it was one of the authors there, Nell Patterson. She writes crime fiction, and I was saying to her about, you know, I'm studying for a BA in English lit and creative writing, and she was like, "Oh, you know, how's it going?" And we got talking about that, and she said, "Oh, did you know that there's a poetry competition at the moment? It's the visual arts place in Scunthorpe. You know, you should send something, like, if you're into poetry, like, you should send them something." So I thought, oh, you know, do I dare? And I thought, yeah, you know, I'll just send them an email. It's fine. I'll you know, I've got a few little things that I've written and they're not in the book, and I'll just send them to them. And it turned out that that competition was like a poetry installation, and a lot of people involved in the poetry installation were people that were part of Speak Out Scunny. So I was sort of suddenly like, oh, right, there are like poets out there that are interested in this kind of thing. And then Nick and Mel at the bookshop, they said, oh, we want to do like a book festival in North Lincolnshire. They'd spoken to Normanby Hall and the local council and kind of said, you know, we think it'd be really good for, you know, like getting kids authors and singers and drama groups, and just kind of doing like an arts festival, but for free in North Links. And I think people were a little bit like, oh, are people going to do it for free? And I sort of jokingly went, oh yeah, I'll come and do some poems for free. And then they were like, yeah, okay, you can run the spoken word thing. And I was like, what? Oh, right, okay. I didn't really, like I was a bit scared to be in charge of anything. So yeah, that was the September 2022, was the first No Limits Festival. And I think from there, that was where I met Mandy, and we got to know each other over the next couple of months, and then we were like, clearly there is a demand for spoken word, not just in big towns. There's a lot of people came to No Limits Festival from Brigg, from Ashby, from Scorby, from these like smaller villages. And we were, chatting to Nick and Mel, and I said, oh, I don't know how many people will come, but, do you maybe have a free night that we can, come and do some spoken word and see if people are into it? And yeah, that was last April, and I think the first night we had maybe 15 people come,
Good
which
start.
I was
It's a good
I was
start.
I was massively impressed that. And also, you sort of don't want to do a thing where you're treading on anyone's toes and being like, oh, I know that there are poetry groups in Scunthorpe and Hull and whatever else, but it was just I wanted to do something like in the local town. But yeah, a lot of the people that ran those groups and people that supported those groups came and supported us. So I think it is just like wherever we can get the poetry, we will go.
Yeah, brilliant.
And
No.
we had a couple of the authors come. A couple of the local authors came, and they'd read, a bit of their upcoming book, and then people would be like, "Oh yeah, let me know when your book's coming out." And it's all like nice promotion for the bookshop and the poets and the authors. And yeah, we then did for a few of the months, we had like a guest poet, so someone who would come and do say half an hour of their work. One of those was Richard, of course.
Of course.
But yeah, but then one of the months we had this brilliant spoken word performer, Peter Cullum, came, and he did a performance piece, and he talks about, it's all about music from his childhood, and then there was a lot of like sort of 80s music, and he'd have like a bit of the music on while he was doing a poem. And that night was we could barely fit people in the bookshop. It's a small shop, to be fair. It's a very quirky, cool but small space, and I think we at that point had nearly 30 people in it. Like, a lot of people wanted to come and watch Peter. So yeah, we were like, think we're doing a good thing here. So yeah, it's I never expected it to be that popular, but here we are.
You really never.
Second Tuesday every month.
You never know how things go, because, like I said, well, the night comparison with the night I co-run was originally it was between one person who then that gentleman in question kind of asked me, then kind of asked Amanda, my wife, to take over. So we need three of us to run it now. You do. Sometimes it's, and that started off quiet, but I'm not going to say how busy ours is, but ours is a busy night. Like yours is now. And I think sometimes it takes time to build things up. So yeah. I understand you completely. Well, oh, well done with it. Now, obviously, then I want to talk a bit also about. Yeah, I know you've done a couple of festivals as well, haven't you? As well, you've done the Festival of Love in 2022-23 at the D31 Gallery in Doncaster. Tell us about that next.
So yeah, that's I'm from Doncaster, and one of my friends, Helen, she was one of the contributing artists at that gallery. It's there's quite a few local artists that have their work there. There are others that are sort of from further afield, but they took the responsibilities of running the gallery between them, and they were all kind of shareholders in a way of this gallery. And she said, oh, they're thinking of doing a kind of performance thing, but kind of around Valentine's Day. So I was like, oh yeah, let me know if I could maybe, you know, read a few poems. And then she was like, "Oh yeah, I've got you the email of the person that's running it." So I just sent her a couple of my poems, and I'd said, you know, I'm from Doncaster originally, and my friend had said about wanted to do a spoken word, you know, kind of a trial really, because they'd never done anything like that at that point. They'd just had the artists in there. And yeah, they were like, yeah, come and read some poetry. So there was a couple of us that first year, and then last February, I can't believe it's nearly a year ago now. Last February, they put it out again and just said, yeah, we're thinking, you know, we're going to make it a bit bigger this year. Have some singers, have some poets, have you know, different things going on. They had like 2 exhibitions opening on that day.
Wow.
So there were people looking at the art, people listening to the music, and then you'd go to a different floor and people would be listening to the poems. And so yeah, it was that. The second year was definitely more of the festival atmosphere because there were different things going on each floor. It's like a 3-floor building. And yeah, that year they sort of said, oh, you know, if you know anyone else that might be interested in performing poetry. So I was like, well, I know Mandy would be interested. I know Richard would be interested.
Winning.
My friend Rain that I met at the spoken word night, she'd probably be interested. So yeah, half the poets that went to it last year was kind of us from Lincolnshire going, yeah, we'll come and do some performing. But it was all themed around love, so either, you know, romance or family or relationships or grief, even, you know, when you don't know what to do with the love that you've got left, or heartbreak, or just anything to do with love, or the heart. Mandy, she's her day profession, she's a nurse and she's a heart specialist. So she did a poem about the heart, literally, because, you know, that's what she does in her job. And it was really moving. It was just a lovely day, and being around all that artwork and just socializing with people, it was really nice. And it was nice to do something in Doncaster as well, like, this is where I'm from, and like a nice day of just kind of getting back to your roots, I suppose.
Yeah, we did something similar. What year for lockdown it was, because Amanda, my wife's originally from Bradford, and it gave her great pleasure to go and do a reading in Bradford herself, because she never done it her own time. He does it. There's something there, isn't it? Like it connecting with your roots. Yeah, I can understand that, because I'm originally from the Stretford area in South Manchester, and when the first time I read there, there's something special, isn't there? You're giving something back to your old area almost, I think. So
Yeah, I
now,
think it gives you a little, like, I don't know, like a nostalgia, like, oh wow, like you have all these memories of like where you grew up, and then you kind of back as an adult, I suppose. It's yeah, it's a funny feeling.
yeah, it's weird sometimes, but good but weird. I think people understand me with that. Now, I want to touch on next, obviously, before we go into your book anyway. I want to touch on about, I know you've done something over at the Truth to Power Cafe at Cast Theatre with Jeremy Goldstein and the London Arts Project as well. So, which is a bit of a mouthful, really, but I'm very curious to learn more about this.
Yeah, so sort of in hindsight, that was probably the first spoken word thing that I ever took part in, really, because it was like I'd done amateur dramatics when I was kind of from being 10 years old to being kind of in my 20s. I'd done different plays and different things like that, but I'd really done kind of a monologue where it was just me talking about me or talking about life or things like that. So yeah, the Cast Theatre in Doncaster, they'd put up a link to apply to be part of the Truth to Power Cafe. So it was write a monologue about what you give power to, or what takes power away from you, and what you would say to it if you could. So yeah, Jeremy's amazing. Like he sort of always starts the show with sort of his monologue about himself and his relationship with his dad, and his dad was friends with Harold Pinter, and sort of the Hackney gang and all those creatives back in the day. And he sort of talks about how it really, you know, his relationship with his dad, and his dad's passed away now, and like how he feels about like what he would say to his dad. So my piece, the first year that because I did it twice, the first year that I took part, I wrote my monologue to depression being the thing that has power over me, and what I would say to it if it was a person. And it felt really cathartic, like just to get that off your chest, just to, because I'd never really spoken to anyone about depression, like how it made me feel. And the people that were close to me that came to watch it, they were like, I had no idea that like you had all this going on. But I mean, that's another thing about poetry, isn't it? When you feel something, it helps you get it out of
definitely
brain.
Definitely.
That's the thing I found with spoken word, is it's so good for my mental health, like just to vent and just to get the emotion out instead of just having it sit inside of you. And you know, especially when you perform something and then someone comes up to you and says, like, I did that monologue and then people came up to me and sort of said, you're so brave, like I felt like that and I would never have told anybody, and I just want you to know that I felt the way that you feel. And it just makes, like, just immediately like feel like you've done a good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's something it does, is as poets, we're here to tell people, and I always enlighten or educate people sometimes as well. Our words, yeah, no, I agree completely. Fantastic. Now, we do need to talk, obviously, today as well. And we've got by a bit later on. Perhaps should have done. Is about your book. Obviously, like you said, well, you told us right at the beginning of this podcast about your book that you bought out. So, tell us next about your book then.
I've got it next to me.
Oh, look at that. So, if people wonder, it's Sunlight Stripping Shadows Bare, which is a fantastic title anyway.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, people always say it's an audio. It looks spanking brilliant.
It's funny actually, because I didn't know what to call the book and I was going backwards and forwards and I couldn't think of a good title. And then one of the ladies that was doing the editing of it, she said, oh, one of my favorite poems that you've written in the book has got this brilliant line in it. So the book's called Sunlight Stripping Shadows Bare, and that's a line from one of the poems in the book. So they have written a blurb for me, because again, I was like, find it really difficult when someone says like, oh, talk about yourself, and you're like, it's got poems in it.
Yeah, and it's got more poems in it. It's got more in it. I'm like that sometimes as well.
The tagline of it is an honest, soul-bearing collection of modern poetry. And it says, Amy's poetry comes from the soul. This effortless collection of poetry pours onto the page in heartfelt words. This collection explores how in life there is both light and dark, in friendships, relationships, and in ourselves, which is true, I think. So yeah, this is coming up to its third year. It came out June of 21 and we're in 2024 now, so this is nearly 3 years old.
Yeah, now we come on to next, obviously. What plans do you have next then? Is there going to be a second book possibly?
I hope so. Well, it's partly because I'm studying my master's at the moment, so I finished my BA degree and had my graduation, and it was all very cool and a bit surreal. And then I started a master's in creative writing, so I'm doing it with the Open Uni, so they split it into 2 years. So I'm currently in my second year of my master's degree, and I've been focusing on poetry. So I do have a lot of Word documents and a lot of poems on my laptop at the moment. But it's actually just collating it all and putting it all together. And my brain at the moment is kind of, because I'm a little bit, I procrastinate quite a lot. I don't always have the best plan. So at the moment, my brain is kind of right, focus on the uni assignments. And then once the uni assignments have done, we can actually put the collection together. But yeah, like this probably the last year or so, I've been focusing quite a bit on submitting things. So like literary magazines or anthologies. I've been applying for different competitions and different magazines, and had a poem published in A Up Again anthology, which is now written off publishing. So I'd never been in an anthology before, so that was really exciting. And then had some of my poems were accepted for Handel magazine. So they specialize in basically promoting the work of people that are either neurodivergent or disabled, or sort of like mental health related things. So they like to promote kind of people who may have struggled elsewhere to maybe get published. But yeah, they're really lovely. And had a poem published in, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, Dreich Magazine.
I can't help you there. My dyspraxia is kicking in when I saw that word as well. So yeah, it's like,
Well, it's Jack Caradox, the editor publisher of that magazine, and they're based in Scotland. So I want to say it's Dreich magazine. So yeah, I've been having quite a bit of fun. Like they do give you a lot of tips in the masters of like how to apply for things, and the sort of formal procedures of like making a cover letter and a biography and all of those things. So it has been nice to because I have been a bit scatty in the past and just kind of said, yeah, I've applied for this thing, and then thought, oh, actually, I probably could have put a bit more time into that. So now I'm a lot more focused on getting a good finished product before I sort of put it out there. I'm getting a little bit more disciplined.
Good. No, good luck. We're definitely a bit straightforward. So, and obviously, like you said, for working a backtrack as well, obviously, the plan is obviously for Unite to keep expanding and keep carrying on as well, isn't it? As well. So, yeah, great. Okay. Have we got any more guests lined up for Unite at the moment, or anything you want to make people aware of with the night?
Not at the moment. So the next Rabbiting On night's the 13th of February, Tuesday the 13th of February. So we did say to people, if anyone does want to theme it around Valentine's Day, then you can, but there's no pressure. Just come and perform, whatever you would like to. The last guest that we had was in December. So we had Tezanova come and do a kind of a performance workshop. He runs On Stage Yorkshire, and he sort of specializes in the performance techniques. So like warm-up exercises and projection and your sort of stage persona and how to kind of get the most out of your piece of work. So he came to our December edition, and he was like teaching us different performance techniques. Because I still get nervous. I still before any time I'm going to read something, I always think, oh, how is it going to go across? Are people going to like it? Is there going to be like that awkward silence after I've, you still feel.
It's a good sign. It's a good sign, really, is because. Because I've been doing it for years now, and every time I'm on stage with something that either I don't know that well or the audience definitely won't know, it's a good sign of your nerves kicking, thinking, "Shit, have I fucked this up big style?" And then people, and I still get this day. People look at you sometimes thinking, "What the fuck?" I know I've made this podcast in 18 now, so no,
Yeah, don't listen, kids.
Don't with me around. Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. I just don't know. Right, anyway, but just get onto the hard sell for you, okay? And the social media, I want to give you time to get your pieces ready for the second half. So, where can people get hold of your book first?
So, I am on Amazon, boo, but I am on Amazon. So it's on Amazon Kindle. It's 99p. So, you know, give poetry a chance. It is only 99p. Unless you're on Kindle Unlimited, and then it's free. So yeah, so it's on Amazon, on Kindle and paperback. It's on the Partnership Publishing website. I've got all the links to things on my Instagram page. So that's Amy B. Garratt _author. And I'm on Threads as well, although I don't quite understand it.
I'm not even
On
signed up.
TikTok,
I've not even signed up for that. I'm not even signed up for this. Anyway.
But yeah, it's also there's also a link to it on Waterstones, which is lovely. That's the Partnership Publishing people. I had no involvement with that whatsoever. But yeah, and Mandy, who's my co-host, we you know do the hosting duties between us for Rabbiting On. She's also got a book under Partnership Publishing that is coming out in February. So if people want to get a book by both of us, then find our links on Partnership Publishing's website.
Rock and roll sounds good to me. So, right, what we'll do, we'll wrap up part one here now, Amy, and we'll be right back over there in a couple minutes because we're gonna go and do some machine poetry like machine gun style, I reckon. Or maybe. Right.
Okay.
We'll see you all in a minute. Thank you again, Amy.